Okay, and then we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you so much for making our time for another one of this series. Today, I'd like us to explore something that I think every DevRel professional has struggled with at some point, right? We spend so much of our time measuring things like blog posts, conferences, documentation, community engagement, and they're always in silos. And I think in a way that creates so much problems for some people, especially at the entry levels of like getting into DevRel. And we rarely stop to ask whether all of these activities can work together to create better developer experience or in some way also affect the business outcome. And that is exactly why I have today with me Rohit, who is a senior DevRel engineer and has spent years helping several companies scale their community and DevRel initiatives. Good to have you here, Rohit.
Hello, I'm Rohit, and I have been working as a developer relations for more than 7 years now. So started with like working in NLP speech engineer kind of roles, then DevOps engineer, senior SRE at Oracle, and then I joined solo as a developer relations. And from that, my developer relations journey started. And currently working in 3i, where we are building fundamental abstraction of everything as a three primitives: workers, functions, triggers. So yeah, working at developer relations as at 3i.dev. Yeah.
That is such an interesting bio, and 7 years is such a long time to be doing DevRel.
Yeah.
Very great to have you here. And before we dive in, right, I know so many persons have questions, especially around this topic. And so, for people who may not have come across what system thinking is before, how would you explain it to a developer advocate?
Yeah, so if I have to sum up like system thinking in the DevRel, if you already are into DevRel or getting into DevRel or like trying to understand what DevRel is, so if I have to sum up, it is like the team that creates content and manages community. This is like normal DevRel, right? uh, when it comes to system thinking, it is like the team that understand and improve the system through which developers discover, learn, adapt, and succeed with your product, and also influence with product. So when you are actually executing your developers, they will be developer relations person of your own product. So if you manage to do that, then yeah, that is what the system thinking is all about. So that is the one thing. But yeah, one of the thing is like if uh, yeah, so my friend is coming but that's fine. So how do we publish more tutorials? So if we ask, right, but system thinking, we ask like what prevents developers from like reaching value, which teams influence those barriers, and like how does changing like one of the factors in the content or whatever you're creating can make a difference. So just give me 1 minute. Yeah, sorry for that.
Okay.
So yeah, to continue that also, like for DevRel, the system usually includes like there are multiple factors where you are working in your product, right? Depends on what kind of a tool you're working on. Is a dev tool? Are your customers enterprise, or are they just developers? So depends on multiple factors. But let's talk about like if they are having like dev tool or like APIs or something. So your system will actually include like product, then API, SDKs, documentation, examples, and these all things you have to work in a manner to improve developer experience, improve the community support, then how you can create the feedback loop out of it, how that feedback loop actually develops the product improvements takes in place. So all of this comes from the community. So that's why you will see like all of the developers talk more about community and how they encourage to give it back to the community. And means yeah, that is everything. So if I have to extend this, like one of the thing you should definitely care about is like developer adoption, because that is like prime system outcome of your entire activities you do. So what kind of a message attracts the right developer, what kind of a documentation helps to understand your product, what kind of SDK docs or SDK you wrote in, is are they in their environment, sorry, are they in their environment which they uses. The quick start is like one of the best thing, like how fast, what is the wow factor, like how fast they can go from starting to uh, just getting started in like few seconds. So, and does your quick start actually produce like meaningful result. Similarly, I have seen like through my career, like whenever you writing the SDK APIs, quick start, yeah, whatever SDKs you are defining, or like whatever CLIs or you are creating, ho- there is also error messages it throws, right? So does that error messages help them recover, like are they actually documenting, like getting them to docs or getting them to wherever it is needed. Similarly, community examples, like community examples, are they showing like credible use cases, or like are they actually helping them to get it into place? So are they scalable? So once they create this example, can they learn it, your tool, your product? So yeah, so these are the few things. Then you have like feedback loop and all. So I think that's all from this for this question, but we can continue entire system thinking conversation. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much because I think you summed up literally all that I think of when I'm like thinking, or like when I have in mind when I think of like system thinking with DevRel. And I know that most persons, once they hear the term DevRel, all they have in mind is blog posts, events, and possibly lots of like meetups and demos, right? But like when applying system thinking, like in practical, what do you think is one of like this biggest indicator that a DevRel team is either operating in isolation, or rather there is no connection between their efforts?
Yeah, so it is pretty different, like uh, so it depends on, uh, can you pardon the question again, like it was about connectivity and.
Yeah, so how can you tell if a DevRel team does not have a connected system with like their processes, or like what makes it isolated, or how will you tell that they have isolated DevRel strategies basically?
Yeah, so so that takes me back to the things I explained, right? Like
Mhm.
our our feedback loop is in place to improve your product, and this community support is actually helping your product. So that all comes towards like product, your API SDK, documentation, examples, how good is developer experience. If everything is in place, then system outcome, your developer adoption will be very good. So like if you give an example, a great tutorial cannot compensate like how for your broken SDK. If SDK is broken, then if they reach to particular stage and they drop it, so they will not come back again, right?
So true.
So yeah, so more events will not solve the users issue about where they're confused. So that needs to be solved. And one of the thing is like a larger community will not retain developers who cannot reach production. So that's why you will see like if you are at an early stage startup, you build something and you have like good means like let's talk about harnesses and agents. Like people build the agents harnesses, and then people throw up like come to their communities, join, and then they talk about the things. But let's they do it, local setup is looking good, like they can run the harness pretty good. But what after you are just using the APIs of multiple providers. But if you want to take it to production, how composable the architecture looks like, that is still the challenge, right? So that if you can answer these questions to your community, then definitely they will stay, right? So this kind of a thing should be there. So I think And to talk about the same, like teams often optimize the metrics directly in front of them, like content. Content actually helps to improve the page views. Then events actually optimizes the registrations. Community optimizes the memory member count. And similarly, depends on like how actual support is getting into your Discord or in Slack. uh, once it is once the community is becoming aware of the tool and they are starting to getting these questions, you are answering them the first time. You will see now from the next time it is just like a repeatable thing. This audience, these users will go and answer the questions for you, so you don't have to in getting involved again. So if you can do that, then yeah, that is the best outcome. So yeah, I think this answers the questions. Yeah.
So I really like that you were able to tailor each of the efforts from content to community efforts to a particular outcome that is expected, right? I know that when it comes to like DevRel, one of the common things that teams or organizations expect is once you're joining the team, they want you to have build a thriving developer community, and they want you to make sure that everything works 100% when it comes to like developer community. But I'm not sure a lot of persons know what that looks like. And so how do you say that the product, the community, education, content, and then the developer experience influence one another? Because I think, based on the point that you just made, right, each of these things have a role that they play. But at some point, when it comes to like system thinking with DevRel, there's like an interconnection. So, like, how do they communicate with each other, and how do they also influence each other?
Yeah. So let's talk about one of the important thing about system thinking for the developers. It is like feedback loop. So there are like different kind of loops I have seen through different teams, right? So one of the best loop will be like better examples. So if you have like better examples, you have like more successful developers, and then these more successful developers will go and create more community projects for you. Once that is done, then there is loop is created. Now this more, you will see more credible examples are being created, and again more successful developers are there. So this kind of loops get created, but it is not easy, right? It will be there and come in place. But one of the thing which destroys the loop is another loop, which is like poor documentation, more support questions, and less time to improve your documentation, because you have to solve the previous questions of the community and go back and answer them. So, and that's how documentation becomes more outdated and more support questions take into place. So, but yeah, another common loop is like product complexity. So if product is very complex, then you need to create very good content, educational content. That's this These are the companies which have like very huge developer relations teams. They have multiple people to explain and educate the that developers. I have seen through like block, in the early days of block, then Auth Zero, early days of Auth Zero, they had like very big development teams. So they had like one person focused only on the videos, one person focused only on the blogs and technical article stuff, ambassador programs and all. So in this type of companies, more educational content is required. So that helps to like wherever there is like anything broken in particular one of the thing, like let's say docs are broken, then another educational content can help to explain these broken things. So but if it is not, then inconsistent explanation can also take rise to have like greater developer confusion. And then you have like you will see like more of a community is coming into your so more of a developers are coming into a community and asking for the additional content. So complex kind of developer tools or companies face this kind of a challenges. So they focus, that's why their teams focus more on the system thinking and compared to like any other small like easy kind of a tools, I would say. Like, let's say any company which is just a wrapper, they will not focus on this going this in depth into the education, because
Yeah.
people can understand that tool very easy, right? So
Yeah.
this kind of a thing, yeah. So to, to answer the question, like, if DevRel finds the root causes and tries to simplify it, that is the main thing. Like, if see, like, if documentation is confusing, if SDK feels difficult, uh, and if your user faces like, I don't understand this, how to use this, when to use this, so that's where it is going wrong. Yeah.
That's also a very interesting point, because now you mentioned that there are organizations that also have these stand like the organizations where there are DevRel teams play different roles and responsibilities. But I also feel like there are organizations where one person is made to fill in all of the gaps when it comes to the product, when it comes to the education and the community and literally everything. And so, like in a situation like that, how would the person handle the end to end developer journey, ensuring that this feedback loop that we're talking about are actually put at the forefront?
Yeah, so that's where I've seen like Devrel's getting burnout issues, right? So there is like only one person who is handling like from the technical details to support to like documentation, and then also if they are doing the meetups and conference, it is another thing. So like if they want to solve all of this, they will miss, they will be not good at all of the things, best at all of this, right? They can be just good at particular like they can be good at all of them, or either they can be best in one of them, I would say. So that is the challenge Devrel faces, and I have also faced this. I have worked as a single Devrel as well as like a team of 4 or 5 people. So I know how challenging it is to like work as a one person Devrel, and then proving whatever you're doing, actually putting the actually helping the ROI of the company. So it is very tough. But yeah, like if you are one person and probably you have joined the early stage company, so uh, this is for the users I'm saying. So if that is the case, then yeah, like you have to go from the company's first. I would, if I have to join as like join as a first person, as a DevRel, like founding DevRel again or something, I would focus on understanding every APIs, every SDK it is there for like first month, not jumping into directly into creating something of my own. Once that is done, doing the meetups with our like users, internal stakeholders, outside stakeholders, external stakeholders, and then understanding what is actually broken, where people are getting challenges and all, document everything. Once that is done, then create some examples, or like create some like create, let's say you are talking about tools like cloud code, let's say. Not cloud code, cloud code is very big, but let's say if there is some harness, so, and it is very fresh harness company, so then they have to focus on like where it is actually not helping the users. If it is not helping, the documentation is done. The DevRel knows what is actually going on. After 1 month they spent into all of this brainstorming and all. Now their job is to like create integrations, create examples, create whatever possibilities is there. Like if tool is already aware, people are already aware of this harness or is this tool, then they can create ambassador programs around it, understand more, get more feedback as much as possible. Because if you are joining as a first DevRel or something, team also, companies also don't expect like everything from you, right? So they also know like things will go wrong, so you are at that stage where it's like trial and error is going on. So at this stage, do
Yeah.
as much as mistakes as possible, and then but learn from them and try to iterate and try to means like uh, try everything, and whatever not work, just scrap it out and start new thing. So that's how the fresh DevRel thing is going on. But yeah, system thinking is really challenging for one person as a developer.
Yeah, I do agree with you that if you are just getting into their role and probably you are faced with the challenge of have handling literally everything that DevRel comes with, and you're the only DevRel person on the team, is going to be chaotic. And yeah, you're going to break a lot of things, and you're going to fail at a lot of things. But it's also an opportunity to learn,
Yeah,
right?
because DevRel often interacts with like developers, product engineering, documentation, marketing, sales, support. Then also you have to interact with open source maintainers, your
Mhm.
partners. So it's not easy job, I would say.
That's so true. And Rohit, I know that understanding feedback is such a primary thing with like system thinking. But when it comes to like DevRel, we also talk about skill. And you mentioned things like having more programs, developer focused programs, hackathons, and the likes, right? However, every DevRel team reaches a point where team reaches a point where growth becomes an issue, right? And in a situation like this, what do you think usually breaks first when the DevRel program tries to scale? Is it like the people aspect of things? Is it the process that the individual has put in place? Is it the communication between the team and what the team expects from the DevRel person? Is it the technology itself? And how do you navigate these things when it breaks at the point of scaling?
Yeah. So in this kind of a things, like this will happen to every devil, right? So we can't say it will not happen, but yeah, if this happens, like you can understand it from the community as well. Like first thing, like if you already have the community, you will see people are actually making the issues on like GitHub issues, or they can go into Discord server, they can tag you on Twitter or something, and then you have to answer them about what is going wrong and all. But this is just about something is broken. But if we're talking about entire documentation is going wrong or something, then that is very big problem. So you have to go and see how. So that's why this is one of the challenge of every developers is like keeping documentation in sync. So trying to convince your engineers to get the docs, and then for the early stage technical docs, and
Yeah.
then syncing them as automation for every new prs are getting merged. So tools like Mentalify helps, but they are very costly, I would say. So that's why you have to create your own pipelines, so to keep it in sync and all, so it like doesn't go wrong or it breaks or something. Because documentation actually explains the features of your entire entire company, entire product, I would say. Most companies try to explain the architecture in the documentation, but it never works, I would say. So that is one of the thing. And like another thing is like marketing promises something the SDK does not make easy. So that is another challenge.
So true.
Yeah, engineering fixes individual issues without seeing the repeated pattern. So that's why there should be like automations in place. And however you can get your job automated very, means like one by one, your life will be more easier, I would say. It is not the job of just engineers to automate the things, it is also for the developers. Because you have to work with multiple stakeholders, not just one. So it is your primary goal will be like from the first day to automate as much as possible. So that is the one thing. But yeah, if I have to give the example, like imagine a company where like uh, let's say there is like some percentage of people are developers are registered for your API calls or something, and then you can't go and say like let's publish more getting started content. You have to map the system thinking approach for like how the journey look like how the developers discuss the product. Is it to the some demos or something? and then they create an account, they goes to quick start, and that quick start shows some particular trivial request. Then is that response is very good, technically useful. And then next step is like understanding what is the several undocumented concepts from them. Then developers cannot tell like which SDK abstraction they should use. So, and then they leave before encountering any meaningful product value, I would say. So, so that here the main thing to learn is like constraint is not awareness, it is the transition from like first success and useful application, right?
Yeah.
So that's why always have like goal based kind of a things, like uh, goal based quick start. And then whenever you set some primary activity for DevRel, like does it have like entire clear conceptual model for it? Did you plan thoroughly? So this kind of things will help a lot, I would think. Yeah.
Now that's, I find that point about companies going straight up to content very, very peak, because every single time I have had to like get into roles as a developer advocate, the first point that is usually made is we need more content. And I think a lot of people can relate to this, right? That most teams equate a lot of content or a lot of articles and videos as success for DevRel. And so, how do you know when the problem is not lack of content, but something deeper within the developer journey?
Yeah, so one thing is like with the rise of AI in the world, I think content has become very cheap. So like
Yes.
anyone can go and create a content, but that's why thought leadership kind of a content comes into the picture. Like how thoroughly you understand your product, that can help your job. So
Yes.
if you understand the product really well, if you understand the develop means if you understand the pain of developers which are using your product, then you can create content around it, and that actually helps millions more than like just doing like quantity kind of a content. So that is the case. But again, if you have like very good reach, if you already doing like means I would not say like mass content doesn't help, it also helps, but depends on how much you can reach to those developers, and what is your audience actually. If your audience is mass audience and you are trying to convert them through the activation kind of a links or like sign up links and all, then it is easy. But if you are trying to get something like very new thing to make understand to the developers or users,
Yeah.
then thought leadership kind of a content helps. So you need to segregate this kind of through entire your journey, like not just content, also through the meetups, conferences, which to go, which to not. Does we need to focus on awareness side, do we need to focus on the conferences which focus completely on the sales side, conference which are more focused on the technical side. So similar thing, like it is just like segregating them and punching towards it, yeah, I think. So that is the thing. But yeah, it is very good challenge, I would say, and everyone is facing. Like companies will ask you to make as much as content as possible,
Mhm.
but yeah, you can't say no to that. I would say honestly, like you have to go and create a content, but yeah, like set a goal, like what actually what is the final goal behind this content. If you have the answer, then definitely go and create it. But yeah, and also for that also I have seen like very good developer relations people are setting the automations, like creating content. And I see like a lot of big companies, big communities have like automated newsletters now. Like you will see every day newsletters are coming into picture. Are they are they writing manually? I don't think so. It's just like scrapping all of the new tools and all, and then creating particular blurb and all. If your AI understand it, if you teach it thoroughly, then it can go and publish that newsletter for you and write it for you. So this kind of automations is rising in the AI world. So that's why
Yes.
content is also not appealing to everyone, right? So So both have like I would say good and bad thing of both of the things. But yeah, yeah, whatever works, it works.
That is actually a very good point. And to add to that, I also think that sometimes, while the solution might not be content, as a DevRel, you should also find ways to communicate other aspects that could be helpful to the team. Because I think your employer may not know that content is not the only thing that DevRel does. But if you're a DevRel team, or you're the only person on the DevRel team, you should also be able to point that if the content is not working, let's look at this other part of things, or let's look at the onboarding process to the project, or let's look at how developers are using this project in real time, or let's look at any other thing. And so I'll just say, in a way, you should also figure out how to ask those questions, or throw back the questions to your manager or to your employer as well from time to time. It also helps because at the end of the day, whatever you do reflects your effort as a developer relations person, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yes, that also brings another interesting conversation. And in DevRel today, so many persons have this similar struggle. Who should own the developer journey, right? And this is because DevRel sits at an intersection of so many other parties in the job space, right? We're working with like the marketing, we're working the product, we're working with support, documentation, engineering. Literally, we sit at the middle of all of this. And so when you get into a team, you're more likely to get confused on where to begin. Who should I relate more with? Should I work with the marketing? A lot of people tend to move towards working more closely with marketing, whereas other people focus on working closely with engineering, right? And so the question is, how do you manage your efforts as a DevRel in a cross-functional collaboration such as this one?
uh, Cross functional through the teams, right? Like from the
Yes,
developers to product to support to
yes.
marketing. Miss, that's what we actually we covered some of the things at the start, like where actually your development teams will report to, and who are the stakeholders and all.
Hmm.
But that is another thinking, like so it also depends on, let's say, what kind of a company you are working on. So I have seen companies where development teams work in product, while other companies like AWS, where DevRel works for the marketing. When there
Yeah.
is Google, where developer advocate works for the engineering, but developer relations works for marketing. So very different kind of umbrellas, right? So but yeah, like DevRel actually sits at the intersection of, we will see, like I think Mary has like very yeah, Mary Thangwell, right? So she has very good kind of an intersection diagram for DevRel. So where
Yeah.
she shows like how DevRel sits in at the intersection of marketing, product, engineering, support, documentation, and also developer community. Uh, but that also creates confusion because every team has a different priorities and
Yeah.
expectation from expectation, like something very different from DevRel, right? Engineering will expect like you need to pay someone who understands how means like it is easy today, like creating your own website, your applications and all. But let's take it 2 years back when cloud code and this kind of a tools doesn't exist, right? Demos, building demos for developers who don't understand the tech very thoroughly will not help you. So that's why from the start, I have done this kind of a podcast previously as well. I had said that time as well, like developer relations need to understand tech as means like they need to be technical. They can't be just a non-technical person. If they are non-technical, I would suggest to go at the community roles, not into uh, company position develop as a for the actually building the system, thinking around how the dev tools can be taken into the community and be the uh, till the adoption of developers. So the way I manage that is by starting with like developer journey, rather than like how the organization chart looks like and all. So like ask every time like what outcome are we trying to create for developers, what are the currently where are they currently getting stuck, and which teams need to contribute to solving that problem. If you have these answers, it will actually help you to work like where actually you are focusing into. For example, suppose developers are discovering the product but failing to complete the onboarding process. Marketing may actually have like conversation issue, so documentation may see it as a missing guide, engineering may see it as an SDK problem. So and support will just expect to get like more tickets as much as possible. So yeah, so DevRel's role is to like connect those signals and build a feedback loop, help the teams understand like how they are looking at different parts of the same problem. So if they can do it, then yeah, so that's how. And every day DevRel you see, they will manage, they will normally manage cross-functional work in different ways, like from the shared outcome to like yeah, shared out means shared outcome is like I think best word for that. Instead of saying like devrel needs to produce 3 tutorials, it is like what is the goal, like we want more developers to go from sign up to a successful working integration. If they own this goal, then they can create content accordingly, quick start accordingly, tutorial accordingly, videos accordingly. So that's all. And from the start, you need to take ownership of particular thing. If you have the ownership of particular thing, you can challenge other things if anything come across you. So yeah, so if you own the ownership, you have to also give the evidence of like what are their priorities. If you prioritize properly, you have the evidence of like prioritize like whatever you are working on. uh, let's say I look at the developer conversation, support tickets, community questions, uh, that will help you to distinguish between like what is like individual request and what is like a systematic issue, genuine issue from the things. So yeah, I think that actually that is the one, that is actually the helping through entire developer relations when they work with multiple teams. And I just shared one of the example, but I think there is like multiple cases you can talk about this. Ultimately I see like dev as a connective function. So job is not just to like communicate, but also like it is to help company understand how developer experience the uh, how developers experience the entire system, bring the teams together, and how you can develop the feedback loops to measure improvements and bring the actual metrics in place for the ROI at the year end. So if you can do that, then yeah, that is the that is the challenge. Yeah.
I like how you put it that DevRel is there for like connecting these systems, right? And so if the goal for DevRel is to influence all of these things, eventually we know that leadership will want to ask the question that everybody dreads. How can you prove that DevRel is creating business value?
Yeah, so there is multiple answers to this. And every is, I would say like every developer has has their different kind of ways to show the business outcomes.
Mm-hmm,
some some developers focus more on the like I'm the person who focus on like creating the examples which take the users from getting started to
mm-hmm,
production. If I can do that, I can show where they came from and where actually they deployed something, where is the developer adoption. So this is just a developer adoption. But if you're talking about developer awareness, then it is completely different thing. How your developers actually not just developer, user, under, got understanding or like knowing of you exist into place, like your product exists into place. If developer developer relations person actually achieves that, then the challenge will be like taking this to the business outcome. So your goal is to like taking journey from like making awareness to the activation, like how you are taking this user to the sign up of your company. If you
Mm-hmm.
are done that, then yeah, that is the business outcome. And then there is I think, yeah, so if you know the north star of your company, then you can use that north star to create multiple goal based kind of approaches, trial and error, and build the business outcomes out of that goals, and set your priorities from the start. So I think that will make more sense to answer this question. I am not actually giving particular scenarios because I don't want to get into like this works and this doesn't work, because every
Yeah.
person will have like different ways, right? You might have a different way. Anita, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's an interesting thing about DevRel that I have seen so far, that the way it is executed in one company may not work for another company. And a small startup process of like executing DevRel may not be very effective for a bigger organization that has been existing for some time, right? And so another interesting or another angle that I would like us to like look at is when people get into DevRel, companies always expect that you have quarterly reports on your efforts and whatever you're doing, right? But we know that with DevRel systems, the results are often compounding interest over time. So you don't see it immediately. You could see the results for like a particular thing you did in the first 3 months after like 6 to 7 months. And so in a situation like this, if you sit down with the CEO who believes that we hired you because we want to change a lot of things, and so now it's been 3 months and I want to see what have you changed for us, what can I do at that particular point, or what can I say as somebody on that seat with my CEO?
Yeah,
um
actually, I
okay.
mute myself. Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, like this is like one of the interesting question. Like, so I think every company means every CEO, every CTO, whoever is your manager, will ask you this question and give you challenges in this way. But then you have to explain in the manner like what is the expectations. So I would start by acknowledging like the expectation directly. So you hired me to change how the company works with developers, so it is reasonable to ask what has changed after 3 months. So some outcomes such as like ecosystem growth, production adoption, community advocacy. I think I will not talk about revenue influence, but
Mhm.
if you are impacting that thing, so you can talk about that. So these all things will take longer to compound. It is not very easy to do with the DevRels. And if your product, particularly at the fresh startups, very early startup where product is getting baked, don't expect a DevRel outcome in the first months or few months or 6 months or something, because it is ongoing journey, and your product is breaking every day, right? So
Yeah.
product is breaking, so you're losing the customers, you're losing the developers, because every time they try it, they don't actually enjoy it, or they lose something failure was there, so they don't come back. And
Yeah.
if product decisions changes again, then again it is problem. So but yeah, so you should still be able to show you like what has changed in the system. You have to answer in that way to your CEO or something. So what early evidence we have and what outcomes those changes are expected to produce, so this kind of a thing you can answer. So and then you have to organize that conversation into like different areas, like where you have to show actually evidence. That's why from the first day you have to document everything. You can't claim the things which you don't know, right? So where developers were dropping out of onboarding, like what was the common mistakes and how you solved it, what was the like how the SDK API usability issues were solved, or what are the issues, how developer feedback reach product and engineering, where you help the product marketing, documentation, and multiple stakeholders in your internal stakeholders, and how shared the same developer narrative. So, and then which developer segments we were actually trying to reach, and that actually caused the problems, right? So, and this matters because change is difficult to demonstrate, and it is not easy. If the organization never agreed on the starting point and you are still working on the same thing, it doesn't help. So, and then you have to also show like what you can do to improve these things, and also show like materially what you did, like what are the articles you published, what events attended, what meetings you did, what kind of things you built which actually got some traction and all. So yes, so it is more about documenting all of the work. So like for example, we now have a shared developer feedback process loop across support, product, engineering, and DevRel. If that is in place, show that. So there is just one example. I think it is more of like ownership and having everything in place to answer the question. Yeah.
I find it interesting, especially when you mentioned that in the first few months, you shouldn't focus on how many or how much returns you had. Like, it's good to go back and reiterate on what problems you discovered within that time frame. It actually makes me realize that sometimes we often rush to find or like to show how much impact you're making in a very short time for something that we know takes longer to show results, especially when it comes to DevRel. That that's such an interesting point.
Yeah, and that's where it gets challenging, right? You can't actually prove what you did in like after 3 months. So because you will not have any kind of answers like did you reduce time to first successful integration, like did you uh, do you have do you have things in place to show like how many people completed your quick start. So because you don't actually track this thing and you are just jumping on doing the stuff. So I think every developer relations person face this. It is not unique. I have also faced this in my earliest times. I still face it. So yeah.
Sounds like an unending problem for Deborah.
Yeah.
So we know that numbers tell us, especially in the last episode, one our speaker mentioned that the what we call vanity metrics are like signals, right? But like so we know that these numbers signal what is going on, but they don't tell you why that thing is going on. And so what are some of like the signals that suggest if a DevRel program is successful or is becoming sustainable?
So there is one term I would like to bring is like compounding investment. So if you can prove that whatever you are doing and it is actually making compounding investment, which can be getting converted to reusable architecture, like whatever you are building pipeline, is it reusable? Did you build any ambassador program and it is actually helping the company to uh, do the awareness without actually paying for anything? Contributor program, did contributions are rising and daily you are seeing like a lot of jump on your GitHub or something if you are open source. If you are not open source, then contributor program looks different. Are people actually helping you to improve the documentation? Are they getting the support? Have you put any support program in a place where you are paying the people for helping you and your company to getting the feedback because you are not open source? Then is there technical content library and how much it is helping? Similarly, community is one of the thing. How big is the open source ecosystem you created from the day of your joining? How good is the feedback system? So this kind of things will be very very good signals, I think. Means I would not say like what is the last signal. Sorry, sorry for that. So
Okay.
I would not say like outcome of this thing, but these are, if you know these things, that is your signal. If you have the numbers for this as answer, so that is your good signals to answer to your whoever manager and all. Yeah.
Okay. I like that, because sometimes I think of these programs and I'm like, while they're good, they also require a lot of effort. And since we're talking about like the early 3 to 6 months of joining the team, executing some of these programs might require a lot more than it sounds in the books, right? Basically. So we've talked a lot about systems, and we've talked a lot about how to also know if the work you're doing makes sense, right? But I'd like to take a glimpse into your own effort or how you do DevRel. If you could highlight three things that every DevRel person should always look out for and measure to help them in their role, what would they be?
Yeah, I think this is the previous answer of mine. Like, if you have built that compounding investment and it is actually uh, proving the signals you expected, like, is the things reusable, is I have you built ambassador program or contributor program really well, have you built the feedback loop which goes from the developers, your stakeholders, your customers, whoever are they, to the product and engineering and marketing, if it is in place. And if it is open source, then if open source ecosystem is created and it is getting the feedback and everything for free, then yeah, that is the best things you can do for the your company you're working with. But of course, this none of this is easy. It sounds very easy when we talk about it, but yeah, that is where entire companies all around working on, right?
Yeah.
Because now in the world of AI, to mention, distribution is very key to whoever product are working on, because at the end, code is become very cheaper. But I would not say like architecture and software is become cheaper. Software is hard, software will be hard, because you will see people are focusing more on the evals and test suite now, where they were focusing more on the code side previously, because code can be written with the harnesses and AI, while your job as a developer is to like build uh, I would say evals as well. Like how good evals you can create, and how these evals are getting feedback from your developers directly. If you can create that, then yeah, that is very good thing to do as a developer. Yeah.
That those are really interesting points, and I'd like you to give us a practical example now, right? Let's say you join a startup tomorrow, and you're the first DevRel hire. There is no budget for no programs. There is no community existing. The documentation is nothing to write home about. Probably they use AI to generate it because most companies are doing that now. And like literally there's nothing to fall back to, and all you have to do is build from the ground up. Where would you start? What system would you build first, and how can you convince your team that what you're doing um is more, or like is actually doing the work that they expect you to?
Yeah, so depends on it actually depends on multiple things, like what kind of a level you are joining on, like what team expects from you,
uh,
and where actually your product is, like, is it open source, is it closed source, is it customers enterprise or not. So it depends on multiple factors, but to answer, like, I would focus more on like understanding in the first 30 days, like how actually this thing works, and how I actually can be the first customer of it, first developer of it, user of it, understand it thoroughly from the, if it is MCP API or something. I would try to break it as much as possible, learn it. Once I understand it, then I can create some multiple examples around it and try to educate folks, users, developers around it, create some thought leader content. And then once that is done, then you will see starting rise in the community getting in place. So managing community, then making your community into the DevRels. If you can do that, then yeah, things are in place, and then it is never ending journey.
Well, thank you so much for that roadmap. And I hope those that are listening to this can hear how it is laid out. If you want more tips, you know where to find Rohit. But Rohit, we know that 5 years from now, like as of today, DevRel has changed a lot. Before now, it was mostly going to conferences, speaking at conferences or doing demos, organizing meetups, writing lots of articles and stuff. But like today, we're talking about systems. Today, we're talking about how to make everything interconnected and stuff, right? And so, a few years from today, how what do you think would separate um somebody who is talking DevRel and somebody who actually understands DevRel and like in practical terms? Do you think AI will influence how DevRel is functioning, or do you think it's going to be like, because I see so many things changing with AI, with like it's like we're in another era of Kubernetes all over again, right, basically. And so
Is
what do
it?
you think we should look
Yeah.
out for?
Is it not actually changed how we work today? It is already.
Yes,
So
it is.
how DevRel function today is completely different, like how it was 2 years back and 1 year back. Like getting demos created is very easy now compared to what was previously. So that's why you are not expected to create like some demos and prototypes now. You have to create something which people can just reuse and build system around it, build software around it, use whatever you have created, actually getting feedback as much as possible to product and engineering. So this will keep changing as we grow. And I see like DevRels nowadays has become like very means I think they know how to manage the stuff, and they also know the distribution power. So that's where you will see like a lot of DevRels are actually becoming very good engineers now. Because if you can properly explain the concepts to the, means if you can educate your AI, your product, then it will understand, and it can create very good examples and stuff around it. So this will keep rising, I think. With AI there is like a lot of possibilities.
Hmm.
I see myself focusing more on the software engineering side now. Uh, Miss I work on like Miss I work on everything now. Like I work from the engineering to the product to the DevRel. But yeah, like you can write code in any language currently. Previously, you can just write in particular language you understand, but now you can write in Rust, Go, anything. So it has becoming challenging because expectations has been risen, I think so, and it will keep rising. And this is not about develop it is also around engineers are also seeing a lot of expectations from the companies nowadays. So it is similar. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And this has been really insightful. I have a lot of things that I've unpacked from this whole session. And I know that so many persons that are also watching this have questions. If you have questions, you can also follow up via chat, or you follow up with Rohit after this. And if anyone watching implemented or wants to implement some of these changes, feel free to also reach out for more context. But thank you so much, Rohit, for sharing your experience and these frameworks with us today. I really appreciate every single one of it. I think my biggest takeaway is that DevRel is no longer about individual activities, right? I like how you detailed every single aspect of it, and I like that you pointed out that it is now about designing what content. If you're writing content, you have to know what the content is solving. If you're focusing
Yeah.
on the product, you have to know what the product is also doing. And if it is community, you also have to know where the community needs are most. I like that you reinforce all of this, every single one of them. Thank you so much, and thank you for your insights today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it, and if it helps any new developer relations and already who are actually the developer relations, that will be I will be very amazed about it. And if you have any doubts, always reach out to me anywhere, X, LinkedIn, or anything. So happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who joined today. And if you found this discussion valuable, be sure to share it with your team or any person in the DevRel space who wants to build a great developer community or DevRel function within their organization. Right. And that brings us to the end of this meetup. Thank you, and bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Okay, give me a second. Let me end this.